Okay, so like as we open, I'm thinking like I'll do like a little slogan, like an apple a day keeps test failure at bay. And 240 a day? I mean, yeah, we're not advertising apples. An apple a day keeps 240 away. Oh, okay, sorry. What do you need to pass the Praxis Elementary Content Exam? My name is Austin, and we're here to make sure that you have everything you need to dominate this test. Remember, 240 a day keeps test failure at bay. No, that's still not any good. This video is going to prepare you for the Praxis Elementary Education Content Knowledge Exam. That's number 5018. This video is going to cover 3 things: what's on the test and how to study for it, the most important concepts that you need to master, and then finally, we'll wrap up with some practice questions. The Praxis Elementary Education Content Knowledge Exam covers 4 categories: reading and language arts, mathematics, social studies, and science. Each is worth a certain percentage of your exam, so each contains a specific number of selected response questions. And great news, there's no essay on this test, it's all multiple choice. Each subject category is broken down further by test specifications. We'll overview each category and then dive into a key concept that you'll need to know from each of those. So let's take it from the top with reading and language arts. Now, the test specifications for reading and language arts fall under these 5 broad areas: reading foundational skills, reading literature and informational text, writing, language, and speaking and listening. Yeah, so that covers all the major facets of reading and language arts. Makes sense to me. 2 of our areas cover reading, so let's take a closer look at those key concepts. You'll need to know about foundational reading skills and literature and informational texts. You'll basically have 2 styles of questions here. First, questions that assess your knowledge of the concepts that you'll need to be able to teach students. So this will be phonological awareness, phonics and word analysis, fluency and comprehension, and then the other are questions that assess your reading skills. For these, you'll read a passage and answer 1 or more questions about it. So, what are some of the most important things to know here? One topic that's likely to come up is phonological awareness, which is our ability to hear individual words, syllables, and sounds in spoken language. So, it's a good idea to review all the skills that fall under that umbrella term. Another big idea to be familiar with is measures of fluency. So if you're not sure exactly what the difference between accuracy, prosody, or speed is, you need to brush up on those. You know what the heck, why don't we go ahead and take care of that right now? Let's take a sneak peek inside the 240 study guide.
Accuracy is the reader's ability to correctly pronounce words as they appear in the text. To be a truly fluent reader, students must accurately pronounce words with automaticity, the ability to read words effortlessly. For example, a student may spend a significant amount of time decoding words to have strong accuracy, but this would lower their speed. They need automaticity to read fluently. Prosody is the reader's ability to convey expression. Students with strong prosody use appropriate phrasing and emphasis. Their expression matches the tone of the passage. They adhere to punctuation. Speed is the pace at which the reader reads the text. Students who read at an appropriate speed are easily understood because their reading is not too fast or too slow. It's just right.
If you like to learn with videos or audio, we have plenty of that in our study guide. So let's dig into another big topic from this area: main idea versus primary purpose. One of the most important things you can do when working with a reading passage is identify the main idea and primary purpose of the text you're reading. Simply put, the main idea is the point. The primary purpose is the why. For these 2, you'll likely be able to use some intuition. Like if somebody asks you if you're gonna eat all those fries, you know the why there. It's because they want some of your fries. You'll need to know how to find the main idea and primary purpose of any given passage. And if you need some practice on this, our study guide's got tips just like this one. There are certain parts of a passage that often contain main idea clues. We call those clues bookends. It's helpful to reread the bookends to figure out the main idea. If the passage contains a single paragraph, check the first and last sentence for main idea clues. Okay, and here's another tip. If the passage is multiple paragraphs, check the first and last sentence of the first and last paragraphs for those same main idea clues. And remember, you will have to expand upon the main idea and purpose to answer some questions that you'll get. For those, you'll have to identify supporting ideas, interpret elements of characters, setting, and plot, pick the best summary, determine the theme, identify author attitude. The list goes on and on. Now, if only there was someone who had created tips and examples of each of these skills, and maybe they had them all in the same place as like videos. Do you see me winking? It's because we do have those in the 240 study guide. Okay, that covers a lot of important information about reading, but remember, this category also covers writing, language, and speaking and listening as well. So be sure that you're ready for your certification exam, pass it with flying colors, subscribe to the 240 study guide. All right, but now we've got to move on to math. The test specifications for mathematics fall under numbers and operations, algebraic thinking, geometry and measurement, data, statistics, and probability. And I know what you're thinking. Did I just hear algebra? Yes, it's because I said it. The idea of solving algebra problems to teach elementary kids might seem odd, but remember, you're going to be tested on content that's harder than what you're going to be teaching these kids. So let's dig in here. The entire algebra area deals with algebraic expressions and equations. So first, you'll need to be able to evaluate and manipulate them, and then you'll move on to solving them. And finally, you'll look for patterns in the expressions and the equations. So let's start with evaluating and manipulating. It's pretty common to get a scenario and then you'll need to come up with an equation that represents the scenario that you're given. Maria uses 1/4 of a stick of butter for each recipe of muffins that she makes. If she makes 18 batches of muffins this month, how many sticks of butter will she use? Write the correct computation to solve the problem. You need to pick out keywords and phrases that help you build this equation in your mind. One of the things that will really help you with this section is knowing what keywords to look out for and what they mean for your equation. So this is just a small sampling of words that you could see in the test questions. We've got a lot more of those for you to check out in our study guide. Look, now that you know how to put equations and expressions together, let's take a look at how to solve them. Here's a quick tip for you. Most of this can be boiled down to one rule. Whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, do it to the other as well. I feel like chomping a snack right now, so let's take you to a video.
Solve for x in the equation 3 times the quantity of x minus 4 plus 10 equals 13. Start with simplification. Since x and 4 are not like terms, the parentheses cannot be simplified as the first step. Instead, multiply by applying the distributive property. Now we combine like terms, the -12 and the +10 to get -2. Now isolate x. First, add 2 to both sides. Then divide both sides by 3. This leaves us with x equals 5. Remember, according to the properties of equality, the two expressions remain equal to each other as long as you do the same thing to both sides.
We found x, but it's not that one x who made us pay for dates and then ghosted us. We're never finding them again. Okay, time to finish off algebra with patterns. A big thing here is to use the patterns that you find in a set of numbers and identify the slope of a line. You might see a function table like this one. You need to figure out the pattern to determine how much x and y are changing. In this case, the x column, the values are increasing by 1 every time. In the y column, the values are decreasing -2 every time. Then, we can use the formula change in y over the change in x to determine the slope of this line. So, -2 over 1 or -2. But remember, this is just one type of pattern you may be asked to identify. And the math exam also covers numbers and operations, geometry and measurement, and data, statistics, and probability. Whew. So, to really get the confidence that you deserve, check out the 240 study guide. On to social studies. If you thought that reading and math had broad coverages, here comes social studies. It's even worse. Within the areas that social studies covers, these standards are huge. There's over 200 years worth of events and developments. Even if you spend hours studying, you'll likely see questions that are pretty new. The thing here is using the process of elimination to pick the best choice. The 240 guide has hundreds of practice questions, so you can be sure you're ready for this one. And here's a study tip: the basics of how people act, covered in Domain A can help you make informed choices for the history questions in Domains B and C. So let's take a deeper look at 3 key concepts. For the geography questions that you'll see, it's important to know where major land and water areas are located, not just so you can pick out your next beach vacation, but because it shows up in all the other areas as well. In simple terms, humans respond to their environments. They might even move because of it. Here's a fun fact. Before 1900, every city was founded near some kind of water source, sometimes oceans, sometimes rivers. So when asked about human settlement, water is going to be a key factor. And why water? Well, for starters, of course, humans need fresh water to drink, but also water was the easiest and most efficient form of transportation for like most of human history. You got to be able to move goods in and out of your city. And water is just one example of how humans adapted their behavior to respond to their environment. If you want to see more, check out our study guide. Okay, let's move on to culture. Let's do it for the culture. Culture is composed of cultural traits, individual aspects of human activity that shape social life in a place. These traits include daily routines and practices, food, language, arts, and religion. Culture continually changes as societies encounter new challenges and influences, both external and internal. Are you ready for some more vocab? Cultural diffusion is the process by which cultural traits spread from one group to another. So, for example, baseball is considered an American sport, but it's played in Canada, and hockey is considered a Canadian sport, but it's attempted in America. The culture of the two sports diffused across the shared border. Now, the information in Area A certainly will help you in history in B and C, but we still want to brush up on some common history facts, plus content about civics, economics, and how to teach these things. Okay, one category to go. If you thought things might get specific here, think again. For most of the science questions, it's going to be very important to know the definitions of the terms used in the question. That's going to help you a lot. And it's a good thing that the 240 study guide has flashcards that are going to quiz you on those terms. Terms in earth and space and in life science are a little bit more common in our day-to-day lives. So I'm going to take us over to physical sciences. This is a fancy way of saying chemistry and physics. I'll have us look at 3 areas here, and they're each full of vocab. For force and motion, you're going to need to know all about Newton's laws. So vocab words like inertia, which is how an object resists a change in motion, is gonna show up. Oh, and kinetic and potential energy pop up a lot here too. I've got a video just for those things.
Kinetic energy is the energy of motion. Anything that is moving has kinetic energy. Potential energy is stored energy and can be converted back to kinetic energy.
Are we feeling good after that? I know that you have the potential to rock this test. What's the matter? In the matter part, you may have already guessed that you'll need to know all about the states of matter, the characteristics of a solid versus a liquid versus a gas. And there's more to it than just that. You'll need to differentiate between chemical and physical properties and changes. You'll even see some questions about atoms, molecules, and the periodic table. So, those are some of the top things that you'll need to know from physical science. Don't forget, you'll need to brush up on other areas of science too, and that's all in the study guide. Okay, that's it. We've covered some material from each category of the Praxis Elementary Education Content Knowledge Exam. To really have the confidence that you deserve, subscribe to a 240 study guide. There's a lot to know in each of these 4 areas, but we're gonna go over some practice questions right now. Remember, for the reading category, I told you about identifying the main idea. Let's look at how that's gonna be reflected in a question. When you come suddenly upon the porcupine in his native haunts, he draws his head back and down, puts up his shield, trails his broad tail, and waddles slowly away. His shield is the bundle of larger quills upon his back, which he opens and spreads out in a circular form, so that the whole body is quite hidden beneath it. The porcupine's great chisel-like teeth, which are quite as formidable as those of the woodchuck, he does not appear to use it all in his defense. He relies entirely upon his quills, and when those fail for him, he's done for. Which of the following best explains the main idea of the passage? The defense mechanisms of the porcupine, the habitat of the porcupine, the eating habits of the porcupine, the comparison of the woodchuck's defenses versus the porcupine's. This is the correct answer. The main idea is a description of how the porcupine defends itself. Let's look at a math question. This one goes to the algebra section. Maria baked 6 dozen cookies for her classmates. There are 28 students in her class. Each child received 2 cookies, and Maria gave 6 cookies to each of her teacher and principal. Which expression shows the number of cookies she had left over? The 6 times 12 gives us the total number of cookies in 6 dozen, which is what Maria is starting with. Then we need to determine how many she's giving away. Then, if each child receives 2 and there are 28 children, 2 times 28. If the teacher and principal each receive 6, that's another 6 times 2. So we have 6 times 12 minus the quantity of 2 times 28 added to 2 times 6. So this is the best choice. Okay, pressing on. Let's get into a social studies question. Which of the following factors is most likely to encourage initial human settlement in an area? Of our choices, abundant natural resources is best. Like I told you, water's important. Now let's finish out with a science question. A girl is sledding down a hill. At which point does she have the least potential energy? As the girl sleds down the hill, her potential energy is decreasing throughout, and therefore it's the lowest at the very bottom. That makes this the best answer. Now, that's just a small sampling of practice questions to give you an idea about how these concepts are assessed on the test. There's a lot more in the 240 study guide. Y'all, congratulations! Thanks for hanging out with me for the whole video here. And if you found it helpful, please give us a like or drop a comment down below. There's still a lot more to learn, and I might have already told you this, but 240 has the resources that can help you because they've already helped thousands of teachers get in the classroom. If you want to make sure that you're really ready for the Praxis, make sure that you subscribe to a 240 study guide. It's got hours of videos so you can watch or listen on the go. It's test aligned, so you're studying what you need and not extra stuff. It's got hundreds of practice questions so you can dial yourself in before test day. And don't forget, money back guarantee, y'all. 240 a day keeps test failure at bay. You know what? I like that now. Yeah, 240 a day keeps test failure at bay. I came around on it. I like it now.